Good evening. We will call the Board of Education meeting to order and have roll call, please.
Dyke.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Frisbee.
Here.
Maycumber.
Here.
Wintering.
Here.
Agenda item 2 is the reading of the mission statement by Vice President Walker.
Our mission is to engage, inspire, and empower students and staff in order to maximize learning.
Agenda item 3 is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections, Dr. Cox?
Yeah, one of our presenters is not here for number 9, so I would ask that that be tabled until a later date. Also, under the consent agenda, Michelle Grubb's amount should read a total of $61,308. It's $58,373 on salary and $29,35 for the coaching.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Roll call vote, please.
Walker.
Yes.
Frisbee.
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Wintering.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 4 is to welcome the visitors and have public comment. As we begin our agenda tonight, I'll explain our process for public comment. The board will hear comments from the public in conjunction with each agenda item using a structured process. As board president, I will ask for comments when we reach that item on the agenda. You will be asked to approach the microphone, state your name, and limit your comments to 2 minutes. At this time, I invite any member of the audience to step up to the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern that do not appear on tonight's agenda. Please begin by stating your name and contact information. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 2 minutes so that we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion and allow others an opportunity to speak, as well as allowing the board to complete the full board agenda in a timely manner. Comments from the public are limited to matters within the board's authority. Please understand that we as a board cannot discuss items not already on the agenda. Iowa's Sunshine Law prohibits us from having a discussion without the proper notice to all of the school district community that the issue would be discussed at tonight's board meeting. Also, please remember you are making comments in a public meeting. Should you make comments that the subject of the comments considers to be inflammatory or libelous, you as an individual may be subject to legal action brought by the subject of your comments. We thank you for your support of our school district. Are there any comments from the public this evening? There were.
They
Do
were.
we not have enough copies? We have a few left.
I'm Denny Hall, Charles City here. I've been a resident all my life. And when you people ran for school board, I talked to each and every one of you about a parking lot at Lincoln School. How come that's never been done? Is there a problem? It seems that we're not short of money anywhere, as much as you waste around here. I'd just like some kind of an answer on it.
Thank you, but at this time, we do not comment on public comment. We'll have administration get back to you at a later time. Are there any other comments from the public?
My name is Brian Parrott, and I live technically in Green. I'm the coach for the girls' high school tennis team. 2 things that I'd like to bring up. Not that I'm pushing this idea, but the Immaculate Conception School Board is actually going to put it on their agenda this Wednesday for the idea of IC moving into the middle school. That's completely up to them, and if, you know, but I just thought I'd let that be known that it's still being considered. It may be too expensive for them to renovate, but anyway, that's one. Secondly is the middle school itself and the development. And I believe that we are all on the page, same,
That's going to be on the agenda, and you would have an opportunity to speak about that later.
okay, I
At
guess,
this time, it's only for things not on the agenda.
not on the agenda. Okay, that is on the agenda. The second item I wanted to bring up is just regarding the middle school and the two halves of development. And Charlie,
But that's on the agenda, and you'll have an opportunity to speak later.
so I sit down.
These are for things not on tonight's agenda.
All right,
yes.
well, I'm sure this one's not on the agenda. The indoor courts are needed in the Charles City area, would be fantastic. And as a member of Lions, I've got Lions beginning to get behind it. I'm gonna try for Rotary to put two fabric courts over the existing tennis courts at Lions Field, which is currently a skateboard park, which is an eyesore, unfortunately, and the city's trying to decide. I do believe that the combination, we need two more courts, but two indoor courts would be better than anything. I'm getting prices on it, and I think the city, Bob Cloberdance would be behind it. I know Steve Linderman. Going to talk to the Rotary, to Dr. Scheckler, as well as Bill Feller, I've mentioned, and to try to get that to happen. And
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other comments from the public on items not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to Agenda 5, comments by board members and superintendent. We'll begin with Dr. Cox.
Thanks. Just want to share that the design process for the high school remodeling project is currently underway. We've got, they had an initial report to the 21st Century Schools Task Force, and continuing to refine the concepts that might be included in that project.
Okay. Any comments by board members?
Yeah, I just had one comment. You know, I think we can all comment about graduation this past couple of weeks ago at the new gym. Was very, very nice, very well done, a new tradition for all of us. And one of the other things that we did do, was that a week ago? We all met at Hy-Vee. We had an informal board meeting in which we could engage with the public.
A workshop.
Workshop and talk with, thank you for correcting me. Yes.
No action was taken.
No action was taken. We all just were able to visit with anyone who wanted to talk to the school board about anything pertaining to the district. And wish we would have had some more people that would have come, but we did talk to a number of people that were there in the cafeteria. So it was good. Hope to do some more of that.
Thank you, Lorraine. Any other comments by board members? Hearing none, we'll move on to committee reports, and we'll start with buildings and grounds.
We haven't met recently. I think we should meet and will meet soon. I got an update from Jerry today. He anticipates move-in of the new transportation center in the second week of July, somewhere around there. Coming along pretty well. And if you notice, they finally got all the grading, most of the grading work done along Comet Drive there in that loop road. So they'll hopefully get some of that seeded, hopefully soon. Or I'm not sure if they'll wait till the fall on that or not, but finally that work has been completed. Hopefully it stops washing across the road so much every time it rains.
Thank you. Finance Committee.
Yes, we met last month and we talked about a number of the things that we've already discussed as a board at our last workshop a few weeks ago. But we talked and previewed the Piper Jaffray cash flow estimate, as well as dug into phase 2 a little bit about some options possibly for anything forthcoming in the future. And that's about it.
Thank you. Negotiations and compensation.
We'll see later on in the agenda the results of the meetings we've had.
Thank you. Policy, we finally were able to get together. You see the result of that meeting and conversations later in the agenda. We also have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday morning, I believe. So we have some more policies that we need to work on and bring to the board for consideration. SIAC, Dr. Cox.
Yeah, we had our final meeting on June 7th, and there will be a report either June 26th or July 17th from that meeting. We went over academic data, and we'll have Mrs. DeVore present that to the board in one of the upcoming 2 meetings.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 7, job shadowing report. I'm listed first, and I have to apologize. My month of May was a little too busy. I did not accomplish my assignment. So we'll move on to Jason.
Yeah, I met with Liz Platty, and so like we've talked about this, our second time around with this thing. I think that, I hope that we continue it on into the next school year, because I really, really enjoyed the time there, seeing the good things that are going on in our building, all of our buildings. But specifically, Liz Platty's classroom, I spent an hour or so watching a pretty cool project that I thought they were working on, where they were given an assignment to do a research on an athlete, a famous athlete. They were all some sort of track and field, sprinters, runners, things like that. And this one project, they spent time working on, mathematics to social studies to, physical education to English, everything. So all of the core subject areas were covered in this one project, which I thought was really, really cool. The final outcome was that they all had to make a professional-looking slideshow presentation and present that to the class on their findings of their athlete that they had picked. So I was really impressed. I think that's just a really great thing. And like I said before, with the third graders, the fact that we're getting our kids in front of the classroom, in front of their peers, and presenting things and making them comfortable with that at such an early age, it's just something that I really, really am pleased to see in our buildings and really proud of. So.
Thank you. Robin.
I got to visit with Laura Walker. It was got to walk into the 5th grade learning studio. I hadn't been in there this year. When I first walked in, I didn't think anybody was in there. It was so quiet. And I realized they were in the rooms with the glazed doors closed, and how quiet it is. And I was impressed with that, because with every 5th grader was in here, but yet it was silent in this area right here. So I thought that was interesting. We then went out to plant trees. Jason was there, assisted. I think one of my observations was not once did I reach for a door handle. There was always a student there to open the door for me, which was really nice. Their manners were awesome. It was fun to watch them plant the trees, to talk about on their graduation day. They're going to go have a picture taken by the tree that they planted on their graduation day. So that's pretty awesome. And thank you for Jason and Mr. Lundberg for all that work. All the trees. What is the number of trees we planted up here so far?
It's over 115-ish in the last year and a half. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Lorraine.
Yes, I also was with the middle school students. I got to shadow Tara Dean, and that meant I went to chorus. And little known fact is that I spent a lot of time in chorus when I was in junior high and high school, so I was able to sing right along with the kids, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun to see the energy and the excitement. They were preparing for a concert, their spring concert, which sadly I think we all missed because we had a board meeting that was scheduled the same time. But one of the challenges I learned that she has had is that it's difficult to get her whole chorus together at one time because of, I think it's because of scheduling issues perhaps. And so, I'm hopeful, we're all hopeful that as we move forward into phase 2 and we plan some of those common spaces that we'll be able to use for this one campus, the 5 through 8 campus, that we won't have that issue any longer, and she'll have the space. Everybody will have the practice rehearsal space they need.
Thank you. Agenda item 8, Iowa Big North presentations.
So we'll invite Mackenzie Thomas and whoever else she has with her. Oh, Mrs. Forsyth, Mr. Kennan, I guess are going to start us off.
Right, so I'm Donna Forsyth with Iowa Big North.
And my name is Mike Kennan. I'm with Iowa Big North as well.
So if you recall, we had the students come in and did a presentation several months ago. We actually had some other students on the agenda for tonight and for various reasons, things didn't work out. So we wanted just to recap, and then Mackenzie is going to follow as well tonight. So let's start with our clicker here. Okay, so if you recall, we had the outbound and the inbound initiatives. And so we ended the year with 16 active initiatives. And if any of you asked us questions, anybody in the room here, between Mackenzie, Mr. Kennan, and myself, we could all address what the kids were doing throughout those, and in some cases, the end project with those.
So as you look at the screen, this is a partial list. The next two slides are going to be partial lists of our business partners. And, you know, while the kids were in school, that was growing daily. And since we're out of school, it's still growing, but probably at a weekly base rather than a daily. Today, we just got some good news that Iowa Big we've been communicating back and forth a little bit, and they would like to partner next year and have meetings quarterly. And whether they're in person, using technology through Zoom, but we set up a date for August 14th, and their whole team, 2 different tables, are going to be coming up to visit with us as well. So we really see that as progress and an opportunity for the pool to grow and really start becoming statewide.
So I need to go back a little bit because I wanted to share with you guys that we actually borrowed this PowerPoint from 2 young Iowa Big students that are going to go down to Des Moines to present at the Fast Track Conference on June 21st. So we're very excited about that opportunity. So we just kind of got online, went into their folder for presentations and took this one. We deleted some of the other slides. They're going to do an in-depth presentation to the group down there. So these are some of the growth indicators that the students address all the time. If any of you were to come into this space and talk to the students about what are you learning, how do we know that you're learning, you know, what are you accomplishing every day, these are common terms that the students would want to elaborate with any of you. And if you have any questions as we go through this, obviously you can ask throughout, and when Mackenzie comes up, you can ask her as well. But that's just a list of the growth indicators that the students talk about. Here's just a little bit more on the impact that Iowa Big North has had on the students after just one very short year. So we're just very impressed with the students talking about the amount of communication, the relationships that were built. The 2 young ladies that are going to go down on June 21st and speak, I wish they were here, because if they were here, they would share with you their relationship. They each would tell you that they found their best friend through Iowa Big North. And they weren't always on the initiatives together, but they just had an opportunity to build in that relationship, and they're going across district lines. So, Mike, would you talk about something just real quick? I wanted to pull up Carter's.
Sure. The community, the better relationships, it's phenomenal the feedback that we're getting from our business partners. Really, you know, we talk about the academics, that's what our main priority is, but probably I would say one of the best hidden outcomes of Iowa Big North, it's the economic development. Brianna's going to speak to that directly when we go down to the Fast Track Conference. Every single presentation that she's given, she has come back to the fact that before she started Iowa Big North, her goal was to leave New Hampton and not come back, only to visit. But the relationships that she's built with 3 different business partners has endeared her to the community. She feels very, very comfortable walking into the businesses, striking up conversations, and she would tell you it's her goal to come back and run Iowa Big North. So I asked her if she'd hold off for a while, because I didn't think Mrs. Forsythe and I were done yet. But she'll be willing to step into that role. So.
Carter West was really hoping to be here, and so I said, you know, you can't be there, Carter, just send me something. So this is what Carter sent me this morning. It says, when I said, how do you feel about Iowa Big North? It said, it's made me a whole new person, made me more confident in presentations. It's made me more professional in my emails, texts, and conversations. If the governor was visiting our big space, I wouldn't be afraid to walk up to her and say, hello, I'm Carter West, let me tell you about Iowa Big North. And they've actually done that several times with people, so I think that's pretty important.
Yeah.
STEM Innovator, we didn't talk about that at the beginning. That was something that was offered second semester, and I don't want to elaborate on it a whole lot, but just a little bit. The students were given the opportunity to sign up for STEM Innovator, the science credit, if they wanted to. We had 17 students that decided to sign up for it. There are specifics that have to be done in order for them to get credit. Basically, at the end of it, if they passed their tests and they completed all of the other requirements that basically they were kind of doing on a daily basis, but they completed that and they scored at least a 70% on the test, they're able to get 3 credits from the University of Iowa. And it is through their College of Engineering. So it's very exciting, transferable, and just great things. I've just got a couple numbers up there. STEM Innovator is being offered all across the United States, and the average success rate was 71%, and Iowa Big North students passed at 76%. So we're very excited about that new opportunity that's been provided as well.
Those numbers will go up as well. Just because we started that, we didn't start that until second semester. Next year, they're going to have all year to complete that. So, you know, that's a testament to what Nana was able to accomplish with that. And we look for those to improve next year as well.
So we've got a couple numbers up here. The white is what we ended this semester with, and the red is what we've got signed up for next year. We don't think that we're completely done with that yet as well, so the numbers could go up. As you can see, we're doubling in size after just 1 year. So what does that mean? More than likely more initiatives, and I'm not sure that we can handle more than 16, but we're certainly open to that. We'll continue on with new pitches and things. And then this year we actually had Zoetis in our space 1 day a week, and Valent started coming out and becoming available for the spaces. It's one of the things that all 3 districts, all 3 sites, I should say, want to improve on and have more business people in our spaces. Questions?
How many students are involved in it?
Need to come up. First, let's make sure the board has opportunity for questions. Are there any questions from the board?
Not a question per
Or
se.
comments.
A comment that I saw your video today, and wow, that was my comment to it, was wow, these students, you know, and some of the things that the board was excited about when we went to, let's say Alexandria, and the partnership we saw there with the community, and we're already doing that, you know, and so thank you for bringing us up to date on just how well we're doing it, because my gosh, these kids are just gonna they're just gonna go so far, aren't they?
They are, and that video was phenomenal. And Justin, that's on our school website now, is that what? Okay, Facebook, so everybody in the public can take a look at that. We ended with 37 students, am I right with that, this semester? Is that right? And we'll be, again, you know, doubling overall next year.
The impact of the relationships that are being built across school districts' lines, I hear about all the time. Because I do work in New Hampton, Lawler, and Osage, and those parents are extremely proud. And then when I talk to the kids individually, when I get to see them, yeah, the friendships that are being, rather than rival, we've always been
Right.
rivals. And to see that, that's only going to make this area of the country that much stronger. I also think we have the potential to attract those children back here later on, because they are forming those relationships and they are seeing the benefit of this community and what it has to offer in the surrounding areas as a whole, rather than just looking at their city as something that doesn't have a whole lot going on. So thank you.
Yeah, Mike and I have the shirt on that the students designed, the small town struggle students designed, and you may have seen, I'm sure some of you have seen the big theater outdoor drive-in, and that was in New Hampton last weekend, and then this past weekend it was in Charles City, and there were students, again, across district lines that were making that happen. And in Charles City, Carter pushed it through pretty quickly. He was just so excited about doing it, but some of the other STS kids from New Hampton, they were over here. We had a couple kids come over and help with that. So the big thing is our names on the back, our sponsors on the back. I said I'm gonna need a new shirt weekly because we have new people that are stepping up. In fact, at New Hampton, there was somebody out there that came up and donated right there and then, walked up and said, this is awesome, here you go, and it was a business partner. So that's the one thing I want to just let everybody know, that this is just a partial list and it's going to grow, and the kids are very, very excited about all of their initiatives.
Could you take your PowerPoint back to your sponsors and business collaborators?
Scroll back.
Oh, sure.
While she's doing that, we want to, our team wants to thank you for allowing Justin the time to produce that video. We saw it Thursday night, I think, when we had our full team meeting, and, that's awesome. That's something that we wouldn't have time to do. Carter West has been working on one, and I haven't seen that yet, but obviously what Justin produced was phenomenal. So thank you guys for allowing the time for him to do that.
I just wanted to comment about the community partners that you have up there, and that you continue to grow, and that how important that is for not only the school districts, but the 4 communities that we all work together to educate our students. And hopefully then, as some of your comments have been, that the goal would be the people would actually stay and stick around and be productive in this part of the state.
Right.
So thank you for all of that work in working with those business partners and continuing to bring those people on board. Thank you.
Mr. Dite, they've been very helpful. I mean, as far as business partners, especially as adults, they identify that folks are going to live in different communities and possibly work in different communities. They want what's best for their employees. And they realize that just because they're stationed in New Hampton or based in Charles City, that the other school districts are providing services for their employees. So I think that's part of the reason too they've been so willing to donate and help us.
You bet. Wonderful.
So with that, I'm going to have Mackenzie come up, and I'm going to hand this off to her. So I just wanted to show this real quick, and then Justin will pull up the other one. But she's working on the rural healthcare one. We were hoping, we had some kids that wanted to be here with the Exercise Your Way and kind of talk about that one too, because these are specific things that are being implemented into the high school curriculum next year. So we're very excited about that. But with that, kiddo, thank you. Again, the only bad thing about tonight with us is the kids love to do this, so I wish that would work out for them.
Okay, so I'm Mackenzie, and I'm a senior, well, was a senior. I just graduated from high school.
I'm Sue Ayers. I'm the administrator at Chautauqua Guest Homes in Charles City. I'm also a nurse by trade. Donna and I have been working on trying to get students certified as certified nursing assistants for a long time without success. We're hoping that we're on the brink of that now, so we're anxious to talk to you.
I'm Kathy Serwinski. I work for Chautauqua Guest Homes. I'm the nurse manager of Riverside Assisted Living. I started working for Chautauqua Guest Homes the day after I graduated from high school in 1969 as a CNA. So I'm still a CNA at heart, although I've been an RN for 30-some years. But I'm really excited about what Mackenzie's going to be talking about.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about Challenge CNA, which where it started. So through Iowa Big, I'm part of an initiative called Rural Healthcare, and it's trying to get young people interested in healthcare in rural areas. And one of our problems was that we had kids that wanted to be CNAs, but they just didn't have the time outside of school to take the classes. So what it is, it's a hybrid CNA class. It is based on Prepare to Care and the American Healthcare Association, and the course book is all online for the students to do. So all their classwork's done online, so they'll come in the mornings, sit down at their computer and go through videos and all those kind of things on their own. And then the lab and clinicals will be at Chautauqua, and it's non-accredited, which we checked with colleges and found that you don't need to be accredited, you just need to be on the registry. So we thought, why go through the different obstacles to be accredited if we really didn't have to. So our community partners, Chautauqua Guest Homes, which we have Sue and Kathy with us, and David Ayers also is our community partner, and we are supported by Todd Pritchard. So the cost, the students' expenses will be the skills and the written test, and then their scrubs, their watch, and any missing immunizations. And then the school expenses are the textbooks, which are a one-time cost, so the first year you'll pay for those, and then after that you don't need to. And then the workbooks, we will need the background checks and the insurance, and then we'll pay for half the expenses for the clinical instructor. And then Chautauqua also pays for the other half of for the clinical instructor, the tuberculosis testing, the DVD, skills video, everything for the instructor as well, and the clinical supplies. So right now, to cover the cost, we've been working on a Telligent grant, so if you want to talk more about that.
Everything comes together at certain times and it works out beautifully. There's an organization statewide called Telligent, and it is the Healthcare Quality Improvement Organization funded by Medicare and Medicaid. And they had a grant opportunity come up, and as you can see, one of the initiatives on the grant is direct workforce development. So I directly contacted the person in charge of taking applications for that, and he said that this was very intriguing and a unique idea, and he would help us work on it. So the grant application is there. They expect about 300 applications, but he said he's never seen anything unique like this prior. So he seemed pretty optimistic. It is due June 30th. It would need to be submitted via the board with Dr. Cox's involvement. And we would send down the letter of intent that we've written that you have in your hands today. And then they weed through those, and sometime the middle of August, they make a decision as to who goes to the next part of the funding process. But at that point, it's much less competitive, and many of the people involved will receive funding. Our initial asking is going to be $50,000 because some of the things that Mackenzie has talked about regarding online programming, things like that, we don't have a cost estimate on that. We did submit $20,000 for our costs, our startup costs. That would be all the costs that Mackenzie had listed, and some dedicated laptops so that the students would have that opportunity to do that. So we are hopefully optimistic that we can turn in a successful grant application in a collaborative manner. That was another thing that Telligent was very impressed with, was the collaboration. And on a side note, Mackenzie has been wonderful to work with. We're excited. We think in the past we've tried to kind of fit our needs into NIAC's CNA course. And instead, we've looked at this in a new manner, and the way we're looking at it is not for career nursing assistants, but for people like Kathy, who start out as a CNA and want to become a nurse or a physical therapist or an occupational therapist. This will give them a step up, and we've got some actual real-life examples of that she'll talk about in a moment, so thank you.
So the schedule, it's a 75-hour program. So 30 is classroom, and then 40 gets split into the lab and the clinicals. And the schedule we're kind of looking at, or that I've been making up, the CPR is what we're going to start with. So Mrs. Forsyth will lead the kids in CPR and teach them CPR for the first week. And then they'll finally move into the CNA stuff. And we're looking at the classroom will be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then they'll split into 2 groups depending on what they're doing for their labs or their clinicals, and they'll go Tuesdays and Thursdays for that. And then to get in, we want enrollment criteria because we're only going to take 10 students our first year. It's just easier that way in case someone decides they don't want to do it in the middle, and then you have to cover that cost. So a few things we're looking at, obviously, is good grades and good attendance, limited tardies, and they're going to have a resume when they come in. And we want to make sure that, they might have a future in the medical career, so if it comes down to that, that's one thing we can say, okay, we want them to make sure they get this class because they're going to need it in the future as well. And once they pass us, they're going to go to Chautauqua and have an interview with their management. So if you want to talk about Ryan, I'll hand this out.
We've included the second thing in addition to the grant is a letter. We wish Ryan could be here, but he just finished his physician assistant boards.
We got that.
And Ryan graduated from Charles City High School and wanted a future in the healthcare field, and so we went ahead and did some one-on-ones with Ryan, and when I called and asked him to do a letter of support, and he said, I can have it to you tomorrow. He thinks this would be very good, and he's one of our stars because he finished his CNA, he took the test without taking the course, he came to work for us, he worked for us spring breaks, Christmas breaks, holidays, weekends. When he was short of money, he would call and work for us. But his statement goes on to talk about how he saved himself one academic year because he already had those things that he needed on board. So please review his letter. The backside of the letter was some statistics that come from another statewide association that talk about the critical shortage. While Mackenzie thinks this is a good deal for students, I'm not going to tell you that Chautauqua's not going to get something out of it because these students would have the ability to come work for us at our really high need times, which would be at breakfast time in the morning and then again at supper time and bedtime, weekends, holidays. So this is a win-win for all of us involved, I think.
Any questions?
Any questions from the board or comments?
No,
Just
no.
in awe.
Yeah.
No questions, just
Fabulous,
applause.
just fantastic. This is something to be so proud of. I mean, this is exactly what I had hoped for us is to show the community that our students are not only just learning and graduating here, they're building. You're building our community. You're strengthening our businesses. You're strengthening the services. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, and we talked about Alexandria as being one of those high-flying schools that we really appreciated and enjoyed and hope to model. And one of the things they had was a CNA class set up with the bed and the patient and everything. I imagine that's part of what this grant money would possibly fund. But, you know, we're already doing some of the things through this partnership, you know, with Iowa Big, and it's wonderful. It just makes us all proud.
We'll make sure that your grant application and paperwork gets on our agenda in 2 weeks so that we'll have time to have that approved and get it on its way before the end of the month.
You left a
And
great legacy.
I'll share
Thank you.
for,
That's awesome.
you know, the people who are present and those in the viewing audience, this is not an action item.
Correct.
According to our board policies, it doesn't need to be. You know, changes like this just go through the superintendent's office, but we wanted Mackenzie and Sue and Kathy to be here to just share with you and share with our public what we have going on between our students and our business partners. And so it's an exciting opportunity that, you know, I asked, could it be more than 10? So, I mean, we'll see when we get to that point, but we want to make sure it launches successfully next spring, and it will just be a really nice addition to opportunities for Charles City High School students.
You've all done great work. Thank you very much.
Very much
Thank
so.
you.
Nice thing to leave Charles City with.
Looks like you have a question.
You need to go to the microphone.
My name is Karen Thomas. I'm a graduate of Charles City, and I'm a nurse. They're writing a grant. Where does the grant money come from?
It comes from Telegen.
The grant application you're holding in your hand would explain that.
I am? Okay, that's all I wanted to know. This is a grant application?
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 10, High Tech High site visit. We had a number of people gone last week again on a visit, and we will hear what they found out.
I'm David Vovis. Good evening. An instructional coach for the district.
I'm Brittany Molstead, instructional coach for our district as well.
Hi, I'm Lena Davis, and I teach Spanish and journalism at the high school.
My name's Julie Holub, and I'm a 7th grade science teacher here at the middle school.
I'm Brenda Bailey, and I teach 7th grade language arts here at the middle school.
Amanda Rommiller, 8th grade science.
Danae Lundberg, I teach family consumer sciences.
Ryan Rommiller, 8th grade social studies.
First of all, on behalf of our team, we want to thank the district for the exceptional opportunity to go out to High Tech High and get to witness firsthand the authentic, the passionate, and the dedicated learning that we got to see from the students. I think all of us came back very, very inspired for the start of the school year, for the action that we get to take. We're looking forward to the collaboration with members of the first team who got to go out. We've already put together some times that we can get together and some ideas. So Melina's going to hand out, being cognizant of the 5 minutes that we have tonight, some of the ideas that we have put together for things that we would like to kind of at least have discussions with the district leadership teams, in conjunction also with the team that went out in the first round. So you'll see there are about 3 different pages there, some things that we really want to accomplish in the first few months that we can tackle right away. What elements can we bring back? So what we're going to utilize our time for right now is kind of leave you with some lasting impressions of what it is that we're walking away with. For me personally, that lasting impression was immediately when we walked into High Tech High campus and walking in and working with our junior level student. And one of our questions was, why is it that you enjoy going to High Tech High? And immediately her response was, our school teaches us adaptability. And for me, that had a profound impact. Even though it was so simple, it made me think back a lot of my own classroom experience. As a classroom teacher, I tried to incorporate project-based learning as much as I possibly could. But sometimes I also felt and questioned myself as if I were getting enough of the standards and the content, the specific content within those units. I had similar conversations with Mr. Lundberg when we were teaching our construction for the numbers class. Yes, I was giving up those topics of maybe how to solve a linear system of equations using combination, or I was giving up how to solve a quadratic equation. But what her statement made me think about and continues to make me think about is all of those 21st century skills is what we really, really want our students to be able to have when they leave our school doors. That ability to learn on their own, to be inquiry-based of what is it that I need to do when I have a problem that arises in my own future, discover who it is that I am as an individual or as a person, what is my passion, and where can that take me. So for me, it was that big idea of how it is that we can make our students be able to thrive as a young adult and even as an adult like what we do in our society today. So each of us now will go through and kind of give you one of our lasting impressions.
The big thing that the recurring theme that I saw in the places we were able to visit was that sense of community, which you'd think that, us being a smaller community, we'd have that, and our kids would have that way better than those kids in that huge, city of San Diego with over 3 million people. But that was not the case. That was not the feeling that I got when I walked through those campuses. The whole culture of the school was that this is a community, this is a learning community, and we all do our part to make that work that way. And again, for me as a teacher, I'm like, okay, I live in this community. I've seen the numbers for Rotary, for the Elks, for those community service organizations, and I know that they're not as strong as they should be. Those numbers keep declining. So how do we get our kids to care about that kind of stuff? How do we get our kids to care about not just the school, but our community as a whole? And what they were doing out there was, again, teaching every kid that they had individual strengths and they needed to tap into those in order to make their community successful. And I think we need to do that here. I think that our kids need to know you have responsibilities as a member of this community. It might be the middle school community, it might be the high school community, but you matter and you're important. And if they don't know that, then they don't really have that sense of ownership and pride in where they live. And I think that was a big theme for me. Again, we see that in FFA kids. We see them out there doing things for the community. We see Iowa Big North doing things. Let's make every kid like those kids. Let's give them all a chance to shine and do something great. Some of the things they did were really small. Some of the things they did to promote this was they had garbage bins everywhere that had cleaning supplies all over them. And so the kids, were working on a project, would spill something, they'd go to the garbage can, clean up their own mess. They weren't calling Joel, they weren't calling Jerry, they weren't calling anybody. They were, taking, again, it's that sense of ownership and pride in their space. We saw kids using the Swiffer. We saw kids, doing what they needed to do to take care of that school, and it was just an awesome climate. And I want to bring that here. I want to increase that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I saw so much when I was out there, but I think the biggest thing that I saw was excitement and passion, and you could see that the students had been empowered by their teachers. And so when your teachers are really excited by what they're doing, it automatically makes the kids excited to do what they're doing. And so it was a lot of the climate and the culture of just being able to do some of those really big projects and some of those really awesome things. And you notice that right when you walk into the building. You see it on the walls, you see their learning. And that was one of the things I tweeted about is I get to walk in and I see the learning. So like, even if they're all sitting at their desks researching something, I can also go out into the hall and say, oh, this was their last research project and this is what the end result was of that. And so I think just some of the opportunities to see their end products and see the enthusiasm that those kids have was really awesome. And I know that we can mimic that here, so I'm really excited about our future.
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to go. I've been teaching here in Charles City for 20 years. And I think I also tweeted out that I was rejuvenated. Sometimes when you've been in a place, you need to be inspired. And I was totally inspired the last couple days. The things that the kids were doing in San Diego, our kids in Charles City are also doing. And that's what was amazing, the recycling, the 8th grade project. All those things are what our kids were doing is no different than the kids in San Diego. They all had a passion, and they had a passion for learning. And it was amazing. I think probably my last thought was Ryan and I had a chance, and this was after 4 o'clock, I think it was. And kids were coming up to us and they wanted to show their projects to us. I mean, they had made these graphic art designs. They brought in t-shirts. They had put their design and was showing it off. And I mean, it was getting to be like 4:30 and these kids are still at school. And they're passionate and they're overjoyed and they were so willing to share. And you know what? Our Charles City kids want that same experience, and they can do it. So I just say thank you for allowing us to go. Like I said, 20 years. If today was kind of our first day of summer, and usually as a teacher you're thinking, okay, how many more days do I have? I could come back and really start planning tomorrow because there's just so much I want to get done with our kids.
Cool. Thank you.
I just want to also thank you for the opportunity to go. I was a little on the fence about whether I needed to go or not because when my husband came back, he was so excited about it. I couldn't have understood what was going on there without actually experiencing it. The level of engagement of not only students but the teachers. Those kids are thinkers. One of the things that just popped in my mind as I was thinking about this tonight was one of the young men that was giving us a tour. He was a junior and we were talking about the climate in Iowa, and I said, yeah, my room isn't air conditioned, so today it's 96 degrees, whatever it was on Friday, and 100% humidity, and I said my room is really warm, and he said, well, the kids could figure out how to put an air conditioner in your room. Just as serious as could be, like that's something they could do. That's how those kids think all the time. And all of the buildings that we were in, kids were engaged. Kids were, they were thinkers, they could communicate. It was just mind-blowing, so, and we talked nonstop.
This is just so hard to put into words because it was just an amazing opportunity. Not only were the students passionate and excited, but the teachers were passionate and excited. And it was a true partnership. The teachers were learning right along with the students. And that's such a cool thing that a teacher can, that we just talked about this low floor, high ceiling opportunity where the teachers kind of laid that floor for them to start, and they just took it wherever they wanted to go to from there. I guess two things that I saw. We watched one group, they were writing spoken word poetry, so that's right along with what I do with my kids. They were also then building instruments to go along with their spoken word poetry. And one student I saw sitting there, they were trying to build an electric snare drum. And I looked at what she was doing, and I don't know anything technical about this. So she was working with these little computer components. You know those little green boards that go inside computers? And she was sitting with this piece. This was a 7th grader, and she was also online on a website with these little boards all over. And I asked what she was doing. Someone else was with me at that point, but she was trying to figure out, something was not working on her little component, and she was trying to figure out what they needed to do with it in order to fix it. So she was on the company's website trying to figure out what to do. So that was really cool. The other one that really struck me was a young lady who made a bridle for her horse out of leather. And that in itself was phenomenal. But what really struck me was when we asked the question, why did you decide to make a bridle for your horse? She said, well, it had to do with chemistry. And I'm thinking, what? What does this bridle have to do with chemistry? Well, the point was that in her chemistry class that year as a junior, chemistry is a sophomore, isn't it? She was struggling with being able to say, I don't understand this concept. I'm afraid to raise my hand and look stupid in front of my teacher, in front of my classmates. And so somewhere along the line in her learning, she wanted to make something that she had to put herself out there. So her horse, she rides a Mustang. She's very passionate about this horse. She wanted to make a bridle for the horse, but she knew nothing about making a bridle, knew nothing about working with leather. So she had to put herself out there. She had to make those phone calls. She had to talk with people that were experts in whatever areas she needed to make this bridle. And in doing that, in working with something she was truly passionate about, she's able to transfer that knowledge now to other areas, and she just exuded confidence. And that was just really a cool thing to see. So it was a great experience, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm first going to say I'm sorry if my son throws a fit. But I just kind of going along with everything they said, it was just like a nice refresher, kind of end of the year, like made my brain start working and thinking kind of already, and just how they, especially how they collaborate with others. And so the one campus we were on, the Point Loma campus, you know, there's like 2 or 3 high schools on that campus and a few middle schools, and yet like they're talking about how during their lunch hour they go and they meet with someone else from another campus and they can borrow some of their equipment, and hopefully, you know, they've got something, and they were so excited about that. And so just kind of those connections, and then being pushed by, you know, everyone I went with, these, you know, some of these people I don't see very often throughout the year. And so Danae and I have already talked about a nutrition kind of concept that we kind of want to incorporate next year, so with some science, and she's taking the 8th grade FCS classes, so that's nice to start kind of thinking about. And then their science teacher, and then humanities is what they call it, at 7th grade level, like they teach together, so then how can my husband and I kind of collaborate together and use our space? So just that was pretty inspiring for me. But then the students do POLs, presentations of learning, and they were getting ready for those, but just how open they were to, you know, you walk up and you're like, what are you doing? Oh, hey, yeah, hey, come over here, like, let me talk to you about this. And, you know, and I think, okay, there are some points in there where I feel like, you know, if someone would have done that with our students, they would have, you know, gladly said, you know, this is what we're doing. But there's other times I'm like, I wonder if they, you know, would they have stepped up to the plate or maybe been a little bit timid. But Brittany and I had the chance to go into like a little seminar I think it was 11th graders, and they were having difficult conversations. And they'd read a book, and the student was like, hey, let me show you it. He ran into the classroom, like grabbed it, and I took a picture of it. And so we've already got books already on the way that we've ordered. And so he was like, they're having one right now if you want to go check it out. The topic is abortion. And I was like, okay. So we, walk in, and they're in a circle. But just the way that they interacted with each other, and if someone, had spoke too long, I heard a student say, hey, we haven't heard from so-and-so in a while, like, let's have their opinion heard. Or, just like the things that they said, and on the wall, there was something that said how to speak like a scholar. And you're thinking, that's pretty incredible stuff, the way that they can interact with people. And I asked them afterwards, I said, do you walk out here all mad and upset because, so-and-so said what? And they're like, no, that's what the book is about, to kind of learn how to interact with others and how to kind of hold your opinions and, know that it's not personal and that kind of thing. So that was very, very neat as well. And Danae and I got to speak with a 6th grader. And the 6th grader was so excited to show us her project that she'd been working on. But not only could she tell us how her project expressed herself, because it was something for art and had to tell about herself, but she pulled down her best friends and was like, this is what my best friend did. And she started with this, but then she realized it didn't really meet who she was and everything. So then this is how hers kind of evolved. And the fact that she could say what her best friend was also doing was pretty cool. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
I think the word inspiring has been used quite a bit, and it inspired us on the way back. We had a lot of conversations about what's going to be the next step. Reaffirming to some of the things that we've already learned and that we are doing, and refreshing as well, just as an educator. These, at the end of the day, these are ordinary kids, and Charles City kids can do the stuff that these guys are doing. There's just no doubt about it. They've got a wonderful setup there, clearly, but staff members are 100% engaged. They're excited about coming to work. They're excited about being there. They don't view this as a job. They love it. And so it's really, the atmosphere is electric, and there's just no doubt in my mind that we can do the exact same. I asked one instructor in a 7th grade classroom as they're getting ready for this POLs, we talked a little bit about soft skills and handshakes and eye contact that these kids are doing, and said, okay, so how do you guys prep them for this kind of stuff? And he said, well, we don't. He said, really, it's the passion and the empowerment and the wisdom, the excitement that they have for what that they've done, and that really shines through. They're just excited to show off what they've accomplished. And a conversation, it just strikes me now that we had with the director of High Tech High. He said everybody loves to show off their work, and these kids are showing off what they've learned, what they've retained, what they've what they're building. So thanks for the opportunity. It was well worth. It was an investment.
I just have to say one more thing. I can guarantee you that there's not one of us that went on that trip that's going to be the same teacher we were when we left the classroom at the end of our year. We're different. We're different. Okay? So just know that's going to happen.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll add to that. I've actually gotten a couple of texts today from family and friends. I'm actually from San Diego, so people are like, so are you moving back? Is that what this means? Are you moving back? And I said, no. I mean, do I love that? Yes, but I want to do that here. I want to be part of the team that does that here. Yeah, so I'm not going anywhere. I will be here.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I'll share that when we had the thing at Hy-Vee a couple of weeks ago, I had great conversation with a couple of women that were there having coffee, and it was the one woman raved about this tiny house project that's come up, and she just went on and on. She thinks this is just phenomenal, and she went on and on about that. And we talked for 20, 25 minutes about that project, And then she went right into, boy, that was just a huge waste of money sending those people to San Diego and whatever. And I said, it's funny that she went from here to here, and I explained to her how this project was born on that trip. And I said that, you know, that project wouldn't be a reality if it wasn't for that trip. I mean, I couldn't even scripted it to go like that, you know, and she kind of sat back like, oh, you know, and that's the kind of investment that, you know, if we're going to continue to be a progressive and forward-thinking and innovative school district, you know, these are the kinds of investments we've got to make in our staff. And I thank you guys all for taking the time and willingness to go and do that, you know, away from your families and away from everything else, to take that time to do it. So thank you for your dedication to the district as well.
In that same vein, to continue with that thought, the money that sent these people to San Diego is professional development money that can only be spent for teacher professional development. It can't be spent on the lights, it can't be spent on textbooks, it can't be spent on transportation. It only can be spent to help them further their craft. And we've just heard for 20 minutes a nonstop, you know, overflow of excitement about what this will mean in the classroom. Well, that's $6,000 well spent in my book. So I want to point that out for folks as well.
Julie, how many schools had you visited when we were looking at building? And in all that time, did you see any program even close to what you saw?
No, I have never seen any, because we probably looked at how many.
I know, it was
A lot. And, you know, like I said, I have to thank Jim Lumberg, because we kind of started working on a project at the end of the year, or his bee project, and we were doing bees in the classroom in 7th grade, and, you know, he inspired me to head there as well. And you said, you know, I said, well, our kids like that? And he's like, just wait till you get to San Diego, because our Charles City kids had that potential. It is, I mean, it is amazing what our kids are going to be able to do. And the teachers behind me, like I said, if school started tomorrow, I mean, we would all be here. I mean, the thinking, the process is, yeah, there is no school like it. And like I said, we're going to be a destination of programs, and our kids are going to do these amazing things. And you saw that with Mackenzie and her Iowa Big. So we're there.
We are.
Yeah, we are there.
We are there. We are there. And I think what you saw there is, I know what Lorraine and I saw, is that it wasn't a program for just 10 or 15. It was a program for every single student there. And there was no way for us to even come back and convey what we saw. There's absolutely no way. You have to see that. And because there's so many moving parts of it. There's so many feelings. It's not just the feeling. It's not just the building. It's not just what they're working on. It's just not the teachers. It's just not the students. It's everything. And the only way you could see it is to stand in the room and to stand in that building and see how everything works.
Yes, and I might add, you know, this whole love affair with High Tech High started with you, Dr. Cox. You had seen it just before you came here to Charles City.
Right.
And was a lot of the basis from which we all imagined what this middle school would be. And we modeled it after maybe some of those spaces that we imagined. And, you know, to then Robin and I and other teachers and Rick, you went out, you know, we all experienced it. It's a domino effect, and I agree. You can't tell anyone what it's like. You have to experience it. And I see you have a comment in here about bringing a High Tech High teacher here, and I think that's a great idea. I know one that wants to come. Remember that chemistry teacher? He wanted to sign up. Bring me out here, I'll help you. The kids want to come too. The kids want to come from San Diego and work in our classrooms with our students. And, you know, as Josh had said, you know, when he was in the wrap-up meeting with the director of High Tech High, he had said, you know, my job is to remove barriers. And I think we feel that way too. Let's remove barriers and make this happen, because I think we're on the verge of, well, we are already doing something great, but this is about to get even bigger.
Hi, Rick Gable, middle school principal. I had 2 comments, but then Julie, Mrs. Holub just nailed one perfectly that just got to build on. Barriers are going to fall when you have veteran teachers pointing out other teachers and saying, "You inspire me," and that's where we're getting. My first comment I wanted to make when I got up here was, we are so fortunate to have a group of teachers who are willing to step out and take some chances and to fail forward and to do things for the benefit of your kids and your kids and our kids. That's what we're looking for, and we're getting there. And the second thing is, like they've been saying, the kids just left, the teachers just left. I'm excited about next year right now. So thanks, guys.
Had a couple things in closing. Mrs. Raumiller, could you get us the name and author of that book that you were talking about? Perhaps we can share it amongst ourselves and potentially get it in our public library if it's not.
There's another one too, that David introduced me to about a growth mindset, and Danae was pushing me to as I made comments. She was already using part of that.
Okay, so let's get the names of some of those books out here and start sharing them. Another comment was when we were on our tour of high schools this spring, I went with a group of people, and one of the comments in the van ride was from someone who'd gone out to High Tech High and had seen all of the things and had known that Lorraine and Robin were there and that they were coming on board and ready to move the district in that fashion of how things work out there. And the question was brought up as to, well, I don't know where you're at with all of this, Mr. Dite, or the rest of the board. And my comment back was, I was there a long time ago. That's why we have what we have now for a middle school. That's why we've been moving in those directions for collaboration. That's why we're using this Teacher Quality Fund money to send people out so that we can try to inspire our faculty so that we can move our district in that direction. So yeah, you don't have to worry about me moving along with you. Lead the way and let's get going, okay?
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
And thank you for this. This is
Very good, very useful information. So look forward to seeing all of your progress this fall as we continue in this endeavor. Thank you. Based upon the layout of the agenda, now would be a good time for a quick recess, so we will call a recess. The time is 7:46, and we'll call the meeting back to order. Agenda item 11 is athletic complex funding. We'll let Dr. Cox.
So there was a work session held on May 30th at which Matt Glaspie from Piper Jaffray came and spoke for roughly an hour to the board members about the sales tax and PEPAL cash flow, and he shared stories from different school districts about what approach they take as to how much of that they spend down and how much they keep on reserve for the unknown. So at our lowest, over the course of the next 13 years, that amount would be 1.35 million, somewhere in there. And we had talked through of the many opportunities to utilize that fund, that putting some toward the athletic complex might be a start. And so there's a recommendation to spend up to $500,000, but what you need to decide tonight is, and it would be up to $500,000 in matching funds. So the Booster Club or whatever entity raises money toward the athletic complex, the school board matches that. And the question is, if you were to accept that $500,000 recommendation, do they not get it until it hits $500,000? Is there a certain point before that that they could start to access some of that money to get going on work? That's what board members would need to discuss tonight. And if you're comfortable with the $500,000 as well.
I had good conversation with Mr. Forsythe and had asked him to come tonight and hopefully he can give a little bit of, share our conversation and kind of some of the things that we had talked about in regards to this number and how we would move forward with it and the progress that you've made on a few things. So can you give us maybe a quick update on?
Okay, we've been in the planning process for quite a while, and we finally have land, and what is this property going to look like, and how are we going to develop this property? Had a lot of conversations with Jason and I, spent some time with coaches, spent some time with many community members, and their vision is much bigger than I had anticipated, especially this past week. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I think people have waited a long time because of the flooding that has taken place. I'm hopeful that the school board will go up to $500,000 with matching funds. We are looking at grants. There's 3 grants we're looking at. There's people in the community that are willing to take the lead because I think this is a community project, not just a school project, but a community project, which is going to be very important. I think it's when we get this vision set, and if we have a task force that can get this vision set, I think you'll be very excited to see what it's going to look like and what it can do for our community. And the matching funds thing I think is important because I think that by the school district putting money towards it and the community putting money towards it, I think it's something that we can use together. It's not just going to be a baseball, softball field. It's going to be much more than that.
What was the initial thoughts that we had talked about with what would be built in sort of phase 1-ish type thing?
Yeah, it's probably going to have to come in phases. Obviously, a baseball and softball diamond to get off of Sportsman's, so we have a really bad year. We're not playing all our games on the road. But other facilities were talked about as a soccer field, talked about a whole new tennis courts, potentially up to 6 tennis courts. So having those amenities to help the community, I think it spreads it out. It's really a sports complex. It's not a baseball, softball complex, but a sports complex.
We talked about rough initial cost estimates of a little over $1 million, $1.2 million, is that?
I think 1.2 million about gets us started. It gets us a very good start on it where we can actually use the property and start having ball games and having activities out there. And the question will be how quickly can we raise money? What kind of capital fund drive are we talking about? How much is the community going to support it? And I just truly believe that there's people there that are talking to me and calling me and saying, hey, I want to be a part of this.
Do you feel if we were to keep it as matching funds that we would be able to get this off to a start?
I think it would really help tremendously to be able to start this process, and I think we can get $50,000 by tomorrow if I needed to, between the Booster Club and a couple of community people, that we could have 100,000. If the school board matched that we'd have 100,000. 100,000 would be allow us to start moving some dirt and get some sodded or seeded out there, whatever direction we decide to go.
That's the way I would, I, in my mind, would like to see that work that we would be matching funds as the funds were to come in, then we match them, as opposed to
waiting.
Yeah,
You match
waiting
on a
or putting our
monthly
money in
basis?
there and then matching it. No, as they come in, I would see
As
no
they come
reason.
in?
Of course, it would have to be because we'd have to have a board, I'm sure, to approve whatever,
Yeah,
however that would
we
work.
pay
I'm not
bills
sure.
once a month,
That would
so.
be a Terry question as to how that works.
You know, and I'm not sure how the Enrichment Center set theirs up, but I know they had pledges over 3 years, you know what I mean? And-
Yes.
And we'd probably have to consider
be-
some of those
yes.
items as well.
One thing I would like to see sooner than later, as soon as we get a plan of where things are going, I think we need to put driveways in.
Yes, and
So
that will have to be done right away.
I would like to see us spend some of our money to get those driveways in first, because we really can't do anything else on that property until we have the full access that we need to with driveways.
Yeah, we had to seek permission to utilize the driveways to farm it this year with the FFA. So this year it's sitting, with half in oats and half in corn. The FFA is using it as a learning opportunity, and I think even in the future, part of that will be able to continue with the phased approach to what we can afford and put on the property right away versus the balance of the acres there. So we continue to keep, a good ag component to that property too. But you had showed me the pamphlet, the progress on that, that Lorraine had at the work session. I passed that along, Lorraine, to Todd, and he was able to get some work done to replicate that.
What I'm really working on is trying to get a task force of people in this community that are passionate about this, that are willing to lead the capital fund drive and lead the design and development of the site. And I think we've got a few people on board. I want to get a few more people on board and get that task force working shortly.
I really like it's not, obviously baseball is our most pressing need to address, with the history we've had there, but I really like that we're looking at, an approach where baseball, softball, and soccer for sure. There's people that are interested in getting the soccer program going and would be willing to donate to that part of the project. There are people that would donate to softball, people that would donate to baseball, and bringing it all together for one, complex to serve the needs of, all of those needs there is really a great idea, I think, and a great asset to this fundraising part of it.
Well, and on the flip side of things, I want to be sure we're doing our due diligence with the money that we have in our PEPAL funds. And so I had asked for this report, we had all asked for this report at our work session about projects that are on kind of a wish list or scheduled plans for these projects to be completed that need to occur in all of the buildings, and as well as the transportation center. So we all have this list, and we just got it here as we sat down, so I haven't had a lot of time to talk about it with anybody, but Robin and Jason, you guys have probably seen this list with buildings and grounds and Dr. Cox, and I would imagine, can you confirm that this stuff is kind of scheduled somehow?
It's what Jerry's working to, prioritize it and update it. So there's things that have been accomplished, there's things that need to be re-looked at, there's things that need to be scheduled, and whether they're scheduled into a phase 2 high school thing or whether they are scheduled into our annual set-aside money, which is, $800,000+ a year. Much of that fits into that schedule. And then that's why I said earlier, Buildings and Grounds, we need to meet again to work through that, process as well. So, but Jerry is working still through that process of getting that prioritized.
It's a pretty comprehensive list. I can also see from this chart that he's given us, that so much that we have accomplished and have been able to cross off the list. And, we've done a great job. You guys have done a great job with Jerry to make sure that our buildings are in top shape. So.
And for example, like the last time that he had done a prioritization of it was like the top 7 or 8 things on that list were roof repairs to portions of the high school. Well, that's not something that we need to decide the future of what that building is going to be and what we're going to do with that before we decide to sink a bunch of money into a roof and where that location is. So.
Okay. All right.
And this 500,000 doesn't touch his budget, that $800,000 budget?
No.
No. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to, if I can find it here, to allocate up to $500,000 of PEPAL funds to be matched by community fundraising for the new athletic complex north of Washington Elementary.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to allocate up to $500,000 of PEBBLE funds to be matched by community fundraising toward the new athletic complex north of Washington Elementary. Any other comments or discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Need to make sure you use the microphone.
John Hayes, I just wanted to clarify a point. Is your intent on building this sports complex to fund it through PEPAL, local option sales tax, and contributions from the community and not from the taxation of property?
Pebble is funded through taxation of property.
Yeah, but it's dedicated, right,
Yeah.
for special
Yes,
uses.
special, yeah.
Something you already have,
Yes.
nothing on top.
No new.
And clarify that this is, money that's coming from our reserve, essentially a balance of reserves that have built up over time. So not anything new.
Denny Hull. I'm all for sports complex. But there's one thing that bothers me where it's at. And it's hard living in the area where we're at, along Cedar River, in the Washington watershed. We vacated the other diamonds because of flooding. Okay, when that floods, North Grand Avenue is also underwater, and the only way you can get to it is around through Floyd or Underwood to Niles Corner and back in that way. That's the only concern I got about. And I don't know where there'd be any other property either. But has that been given any thought? You know what I mean?
As to
are we going to?
the flooding along North Grand?
Yes. You know,
Other
that-
than if there's flooding in town and everything is flooded, I'm guessing that we're going to need every hand on deck to deal with flooding and probably not be able to play
But
ball
I've seen-
games. That would be my opinion.
Okay, I've seen that area underwater just from rain in the Washington School watershed,
and
the rest of the town's not flooded.
And then I'll go back to, we bought the land a month, 6 weeks ago. So the question of buying that land has come and passed, we now own it.
That I
We're looking
understand.
at moving forward with developing that land.
But rest assured, we worked with Realtor, and there were a number of different plots that were evaluated, with certain criteria over time, and so this happened to be the best that we could do, and the best option for which we can move forward. And we like the proximity to Sportsman's Park, so that perhaps tournaments might be played, so that, the two fields could be used together.
And to clarify, Denny, we're not looking at abandoning Sportsman's Park. We plan on continuing to use Sportsman's Park. We lease it from the city for $1, and we mow it and help maintain it.
But my concern is getting there when North Grand is underwater.
But I think the same thing would happen if we were to put it on the south of town and you lived on North Grand, and if it flooded, you still would have to drive around to get to the other side. So whatever side of the river it ends up on, whatever side you're not on the field of, you're gonna have to drive around, I would think, to get, does that make sense? So even if we would have built it on the south side of town, if you lived on the north side of town, you couldn't have driven to it because the river cuts our town in half.
Right, I realize the area we're at, it's just,
It just is.
Bad geography for those things.
maybe I can get a pontoon and
Our
shuttle people.
founding
across.
fathers, yeah.
That's right.
Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 12, the creative placemaking proposal. Dr. Cox.
So also at our May 30th workshop, you heard about an hour presentation from Zach Mannheimer of McClure Engineering Company. Came forward with a proposal about the North Grand building. He is the creative force behind the Des Moines Social Club and a number of projects around the state in buildings, giving them new life. Steve Deers is here from the city as well. If now you would like to talk about, a potential city council and school board meeting to discuss Zach's proposal. I've given you options. Obviously, number 13 and 14 is another proposal that we've been exploring for quite some time. And so for the school board, it's really to decide, do you want to explore Zach's proposal that has come to you recently, Would you like to go with option agreement and conveyance of property as listed below, or would you like to pursue both options?
Well, I did like what I heard from Zach. However, I would like to make a motion that we table this item until another date. I'm feeling as though while the exploration with Zach may have merit, that it's a little bit more big picture thinking that involves more than just the school board and the city council, that perhaps it should be expanded to more, such as the chamber or community development, maybe the supervisors. And so I'd like to just remove this from conversation tonight and do this at a later date.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to table further discussion on this item. Any other discussion about not discussing it? Roll call vote.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wienering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 13 is the public hearing for conveyance of real property. We will call the public hearing to order and make sure that we have confirmed with our business manager that we publicize the public hearing in accordance with state law.
Yes.
And have we received any written notices?
Yes, we've
or
received
comments?
2 written notices. The first one dated June 11th, 2017, to the school board. I think the former Charles City Middle School at 500 North Grand Avenue should, if at all possibly stay in the public hands and be used as a technical school to teach students skilled trades, and the pool to be used as the city's year-round swimming pool to replace the one at Lions Field, and the superintendent's office should also stay at 500 North Grand Avenue. This building could also house the City Hall and City Council chambers and the Charles City Police Department and a city jail as well. This way, this building would be put to very good public use and be around for many, many years to come. This building was also once a civil defense shelter and should be used for that purpose once again. Thank you very much, Jeff Bergstrom. The second one, also dated June 11th, 2017, to Dr. Cox and Charles City School Board members from John Hayes regarding public comments on the 500 North Grand building. 500 North Grand Avenue was built with public funds as a public institution. I believe the best course to follow is that 500 North Grand Avenue remain a public entity, either a school or school municipal building combination. I believe that the school board should take no action at this time. They should not privatize this building. I believe what was accomplished at Ames, Iowa is the best model for Charles City to follow. Maybe a municipal building / school combination, publicly owned. Load up the buses with the school superintendent, Terry O'Brien, Mr. Mitchell, all school board members, the mayor, city clerk, city engineer, chief of police, fire chief, all council members, all board of supervisors, sheriff, county engineer, auditor, treasurer, emergency management person, and possibly people from DHS, DNR, and ASCS office. Revisit Ames, Iowa to experience what can be achieved. Honest polls, not fake self-selecting surveys of various subgroups, should be conducted representing the entire voting public. Attempts should be made to gauge support, if any, and level of support. Charles City faces many challenges: bridge replacement, jail upgrade, City Hall upgrade, athletic fields. Polls should be conducted to gauge public support for all of these. The school district should not sell off a building it is currently using prior to obtaining funding for improvements it wants to make at Comet Drive. In my lifetime, I have observed several tragedies in Charles City: floods, tornado, and closing of White Farm Tractor Factory. Do not create another tragedy by privatizing 500 North Grand Avenue. Sincerely, John Hayes.
And those were the 2 written comments that you received?
Yes.
They've been read and will be made a part of the record of the meeting. We will open it up for comments from the public at this time. Please come to the microphone for the public hearing and state your name and contact information if you have anything to say about the option to purchase property located at 500 North Grand.
My name's Ron Stewart. I don't know what you want for contact information.
We can find you, Ron.
Can you explain to me the paragraph where you're talking about leasing that quickly, because I'm going to run on my 2 minutes. You're going to lease it, but at the option of Mr. Thompson, he can tear it down and you don't get the money back?
Yeah, we will answer that when we get to
that item, okay.
Agenda item 14. We'll make a note of that.
Okay, and apart on the use of that building, and it's just, people have started to talk about Catholic school, IC school, getting that school to use. I think it has real merit. I mean, it goes into still a school. You're going to use it as possibly Kerry Lane School and a couple other learning facilities. It plays right into that. And if you're going to lease that portion would also help IC refurbish what they need to. And they have a marketable building down where they're at that floods. If they fill the basement in, it could have 2 stories used for office space or whatever, plus their new addition. So I think it would still maintain a school and please a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments for the public hearing?
Pat McCauley, I think you all know me. I don't know if you can answer me or not, but I just heard this tonight about the IC school questioning using the old middle school. Can you answer or not?
No one has contacted me about that, Pat, so that's news to me tonight.
Okay, okay. And another question, this company, I don't remember the name of it, that's come and talked to you about redoing the whole building. Did they show you plans for it or no?
No, they did not.
So it's just kind of up in the air?
He talked about projects that he's done in other places and kind of pitched it as, you know, here's what I could do for you, but there was no proposal for us about what he could do. It was more, here's my resume of work that I've done.
Okay.
Is that a fair summation?
Yep.
Okay.
He was for hire.
Pardon?
He was for hire. That was a company for hire that would come in and develop a plan for the building.
Right, right. The only one I've really heard is Charlie's of coming in and renting house, and we would have use of the auditorium, which is dear to me. I would hate to ever see that go, because I was on the stage. All my kids have been are on the stage, and you know, everybody that uses it, the bands, the orchestras, the dramas, the people from out of town come and use it, and also the swimming pool. I hear too many things that people say, why aren't we using it? People from Mason City even, and Nashua have said, why can't we come and use your pool? Why don't you fix it? Because it's all better than ours. So that's why I'm wondering, if we keep it, can we fix the swimming pool and do this? And also somebody talked to me about a skilled trades coming in and setting up a business such as school, I mean, to have a skilled trades school occupied in part of it. And when people say that, they all sound good to me, so I thought, well, I'm going to push them at you now.
Us too.
Thank you.
Thank you, and all of those things have been brought up in the last 4 years, and they haven't gotten anywhere other than talk. So, thank you.
Sounds good, though.
Sounds good.
They do sound good.
Nobody's willing to make anything happen.
No, we would not disagree with any of that.
My name's Greg Easterly. I guess, like I say, this has been some time that we've been looking at it, but I don't think we need to be in that big of a rush yet. We seem to have money to, like I say, build a new athletic complex. We seem to have money to do feasibility studies of anything and everything. We're hiring architects for a new school and so forth. I don't think the community is going to blank at funding the custodial part of the school for some time yet. It sounds like, I know this is going to be brought up probably here a little later. This is first I've heard about the lease, but if we're interested in going with a lease, it sounds like we're going to fund the school anyway. And this is the first time, I guess why I'm a little shook up, this is the first time I've ever seen it in print, the word demolition. And if we're going into a lease, that we're going to put $280,000 in, and that lease can be terminated in 60 days. They keep our $280,000 and demolish the building. That's, like I say, it's the first time I've seen that.
And to clarify, Ron, excuse me, Ray, just that 1970 wing,
Not the whole
not the
building.
entire thing.
Yeah, well, like I say.
But
Yeah.
just to clarify,
Yep.
it's not the whole building.
Any other comments?
Hello, my name is Vince Rottinghouse. I used to sit where Scott was there several years ago, so I kind of empathize with your position. I was just gonna reinforce what Greg was bringing up about the demolition part of this thing. And the other item was, and later in the deal is, we already own the building and we're gonna rent it to a guy that we're gonna rent it, sell it to him and rent it back. I don't see the point in that. I mean, why don't you just retain ownership until you do make up your mind what, whether it's gonna be demolished or not. But that's gonna affect your operating budget by renting that back. And
No.
yeah, that will come out of your operating budget. Which budget would that come out of then? Which
The
fund would
opportunity
that
to
come
out
out
of
of?
our PEPAL fund or the management fund, right?
Not management,
management.
the
Pepple fund.
the Pepple
Pepple.
sales tax fund.
It does
The Pebble
We
Sales
can-
Tax Fund
we
is where
can-
the money to rent, to lease the building will come
To
from?
pay lease payments, yes, you can
Okay,
use.
so that won't affect your operating budget?
would
Not
actually
the
give us-
general fund
Not the
operating
general
budget.
fund.
Give us a
Takes it
relief,
off the
yeah.
general fund.
General fund relief, quite a bit of general fund relief by doing that. That's one option, and maybe we'll talk about that in the next item, I don't know. But that's one thing that we bounced back and forth dozens of times, of whether we retain ownership of part of the building or not. And the big bonus of leasing is the source of revenue that you can use to pay that.
Okay, so then that would free up,
It would free up more general fund money for teachers and staff and programming and kid stuff, educational stuff.
as far as the custodial and electrical and that, what has that been running a month to maintain that? Do you have any figures on that?
No.
We could find them because I saw it. not
Could you
that long
ballpark
ago.
that for me? I guess that
Didn't
would
you
be,
recently run the numbers on utilities for the district?
We can get
usually?
them, yes.
You can get them.
I mean, that would
I
be
hate to say
very
the wrong
important
thing,
for you guys to analyze
Yeah.
what it costs to maintain, as Greg was saying. The community would stand behind that. I know with the Jefferson School, when that was closed, it was failed, and the maintenance wasn't you know, it wasn't heated and pipes broke and all that stuff. So the building became useless because we didn't do the bare minimum to maintain that. And I'd hate to see that happen to this building. We're talking about tearing down the 1972 addition on a 1932 building. So we know what was the better construction, I guess, as far as longevity. So, well, anyway, that's the 2 points I was trying to make. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments?
If the Catholic school is really interested, I think that would be a wonderful solution, because it would still be a school, and the Catholic school is a very good school, and they make things happen, and they work together. Like after the flood, they were all there helping. I think that they could really do something good with that school.
Well, you know, if I can say, there's been ongoing ideas that come forward again and again and again, and as Dr. Cox had said, we'd not heard anything from the IC school at this point. But the one thing that I think we've all heard from Charlie Thompson is that if someone were to come forward, and you can correct me, Charlie, if I misstate this, but if someone or some entity were to come forward and want to do something in collaboration with Charlie to develop within that building, that Charlie is interested in doing what is right for the community.
And we can get into more of that
Right.
as we move forward here too. Let's try and continue with the public hearing and close that and move on to the agenda where we can actually talk about this whole process more. Are there any other comments for the public hearing? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to agenda item 14 to discuss the option agreement and lease of the North Grand building. And we'll turn it over to Dr. Cox.
So if you don't have an agenda, I'll read the description. It says the district received a proposal to buy the North Grand building and lease the east end of the building back from the buyer, North Grand Benevolent Literary, Eleemosynary Educational, Scientific, and Charitable Institution Incorporated, a developer and an Iowa not-for-profit corporation. The main points of the lease agreement include a 3-year term, but either party can terminate the lease with 60 days' notice. The school will pay a rent of $1 annually plus an amount equal to the district's proportionate share of expense of the addition plus the auditorium. Expenses shall mean all expenses, costs, and disbursements other than taxes actually paid or incurred by landlord in connection with the operation of the building, including the cost of providing utilities to the building. Upon execution of the lease, the district shall deposit the security deposit of $280,000 paid in 3 annual installments, $100,000 on July 1st of 2018, $90,000 on July 1st, 2019, and 2020. Within 60 days of expiration of the term or earlier termination of this lease, landlord shall return the full amount of the security deposit to the district unless, within said 60-day period, landlord provides notice to the district that the landlord intends to demolish the addition as depicted in the Exhibit A, and landlord actually commences demolition of the addition. In event, landlord shall be entitled to retain the security deposit. If the HVAC breaks down and the district wishes to remain at the property, it will be the responsibility of the district to fix or replace the HVAC system. The district can make alterations to the leased property if the owner does not object.
So that's a summary of the 62-page document that we received that details this North Grand building option agreement.
I'll build on that a little bit. You know, as having sat on buildings and grounds for the time I've been on the board, we've spent, I'd hate to guess how many hours going through this and looking at this. Charlie's been in, I don't know, a dozen times maybe. We've had a dozen more meetings where we've been through this in the last 3 years trying to come up with something. There's a number of positives that have come from, this lease agreement. We hit on the one already with the funding to pay for our rent, if you will. It's simply our cost of occupation of the building, which is primarily utilities costs. By doing that, we're able to use a different source of money, give ourselves some general fund relief, which is a big positive. What we've seen and the estimated cost of our occupation of that end of the building would be revisited periodically to reflect or address changes in markets, whether that's huge increase or decrease in natural gas prices, whatever it is. But early estimates or our initial estimates are $30,000 to $40,000 annually of cost to the district to rent that into the building, lease that into the building. We have a great need still for that space. Whether it's the gym, the wrestling room, the auditorium, obviously, the Iowa Big North, the homeschool assistance program, Carey Lane, district offices, a number of those things. That estimated cost that I cited there, looking at that, taking into account that we had been paying $10,000 annually in rent just for the Carey Lane School before that. That brings that in-house. There's immediately a portion of that estimated annual cost that is offset by an expense that we had already been paying. So the benefit that we get out of that into that building, in my opinion, is far exceeds that little bit of cost annually that we're going to have for utilities and occupation of it. Along with that, the flexibility that we've been given to be able to do that with Charlie in this agreement is something that is of great benefit to the district, and certainly great benefit to Charlie to have that end of the building occupied. So obviously I spent a lot of time on this and doing it. I feel really good about where we're at with it, and I'm really excited about the project. We're committing to 3 years in that time. If something were to come up, there is obviously an out like there is in any other lease and any other piece of real estate. So there certainly is that. But and I'll speak for myself and myself only, that in 3 years' time, I think we're going to have a real hard time replicating that space anywhere else. And as long as we're welcome to continue there, my personal opinion is I have a hard time seeing us get out of there without having to do something somewhere else to replicate that space. And in no way will it be feasible cost-wise compared to what we're working with under this agreement. So, the security deposit thing, I know there's heartburn on that. I mean, it's certainly, an issue that going forward is something that, how do we kind of address a couple of different things. Certainly, absolute worst case scenario is that, at some point, someday, someone would have to demolish the entire building, and the costs associated with that would far exceed that number that's in here today, the $280,000. So if, in my opinion, then at this point, it protects the school district, limits our liability to that cost in that absolute worst case scenario to that number. And I when I vote on this, I'm comfortable accepting that that risk or that thought with that going forward here. So simply looking at a financial responsibility to the district and as a board member in our community on that. So
could you go back to the question in the public hearing?
Which one?
Question in the public hearing.
Mr. Stewart's.
Wanted to know more about the 270,000.
Okay, does that?
What's that?
Your question about the security deposit?
The 280.
Correct.
Does that answer?
Basically, in 60 days, if you decide to demolish the building, give you 60 days notice, you're out for $280,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, come back.
Because basically, from a business standpoint on this thing, the question was asked earlier what it costs to maintain that building as far as heat and everything, and you couldn't answer it. I mean, that building's been in operation since the 30s. You should know, okay, we just abandoned it last year, you should know, boom. We'd have some savings, it ain't gonna be what it was when it was occupied. But you should know that when you say you're confident going ahead with what Mr. Thompson says, how can you say that when you couldn't answer the simple question, what it costs to maintain it unoccupied?
I'm confident that that number's somewhere in the $60,000 to $80,000 range, but I don't want to be quoted on something that I'm not, you know, I don't have a $63,874.57 answer for you, you know,
Okay,
is my angle
but
there.
just throw some hypotheticals, if it's $80,000 a year, you can maintain that building for the same money, you're gonna pay less money than you're gonna pay him for rent than 3 years.
That's assuming that we don't spring a huge leak over the whatever in there, and that we need to put a substantial amount of money into the roof.
Obviously,
or
yes.
tear it down, you know.
Right.
Exactly. So I mean,
But
there's a number of things
For a
there
buck, I think you're gonna be able to move that building irregardless. I mean, there's salvage value. Somebody for a buck is gonna buy it for salvage value.
And that's what we didn't want to do.
Right, exactly, but he said worst case scenario if it comes up to that. So I don't think we need to be in a real big rush.
The 1970s, remember, that's just the 1970s wing, that's,
We don't need to be in a real big rush to say, hey, for a buck, we're gonna do it to Mr. Thompson, we're gonna give him the building, we're gonna lease it back, because we think it's a good deal. And I know we spent a lot of time trying to find alternate purposes for the building, but I still think there's some merit to look a little longer. I don't think if the proposal's that good, Mr. Thompson's gonna withdraw it within the next year. So let's explore a little longer. Throw these figures together, put, like you say, the operating cost, what it's gonna cost. You've been out of the building for 1 school year. Get them figures together, put them together, look at them that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments from the board?
I'll comment again that tonight's the first time, it's not the first time I've heard the rumor, but there is no official representative from the IC school here. They have not made any official contact with any of us. For me to make a decision tonight based on how it's been presented tonight would be somewhat irresponsible of me, in my opinion. And if there was a true interest there, I would have expected that in the past 3 to 4 years worth of discussion on this, we would have had something, you know, come through with that. Same thing with the public entity use, the public, you know, city hall, you know, county, any of that stuff. We've been around this block. I've only been on the board 3 years, whatever it's been. And 100% of the days I've been on the board, we've talked about this issue. The question's been asked a number of times, privately and publicly, of representatives of all of the entities that people speak of that they wish would step up and do it. The time's here. The time's passed. They have not stepped up. They have shown no interest in it. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed in that as much as you are. That's what I've looked at all along and fought for. Before I was on the board, I was on the revitalization team thing. We spent a lot of time. We went to Ames. We went to all these communities. We looked at all this great stuff with these representatives of other entities in town, and no movement. So we sit here today with, in my opinion, to be a viable option for this building and a viable thing that actually will provide a great benefit to the community and a great benefit to the school district. And that's why I sit here and support it. So.
And I think based upon that, thus the decision by Lorraine to make the motion and the rest of us to vote unanimously to table any more discussion from Zach, the agenda item 12 that we did.
Well, and
It's all been hashed and rehashed and conversations for years, and no one else from the community has come forward.
and I spoke to, while IC was actually sandbagging their building
Last fall.
last fall, I spoke to parents that were on the board and representatives, and half jokingly, half a sale pitch, said, I have a building right now, you wouldn't have to be sandbagging. And they says, yes, but we can fit a lot of our buildings in there. You're looking at a very big building, and you're looking at an upgrade amount that would probably fund a brand-new school for them if they so decided to. I don't know where this IC thing came from. I haven't heard any of it. I feel like we have a pretty good relationship with some of those folks over there, being friends and neighbors. But October of 2015 was the first time that it was mentioned in the Charles City Press that Charlie was buying the North, interested in buying.
In it, yep.
It has since been mentioned in the press, roughly 12 different times, different stories. This is the first time that anybody's really showed up to speak anything about that intent. We've had people come with other options, different ideas, and we've explored every single one of them. And not just looked at them at a glance. We've explored every single option brought to us. Like Jason said, I've stood face to face, nose to nose with people and said, can you not figure out a way to do this? And they've honestly looked at us and said, no, I can't. No, we can't. So now you can't ask us to take the one offer, the one chance we have to know that something, the best chance we have, because it's the only chance we have. And Jason and I, like you said, have sat on this for hours and hours and hours, and this is a good opportunity for the school. You can't ask us not to do this and to wait longer on things that we have no guarantees, nothing. We don't have any word from anybody. There's no interest, nothing. You can only wait for so long.
Well, and I can say that I've been seated here for 6 years, and it was the year prior to me getting on the school board that Newman Munson came up with the first plan for that building. And it went on to a proposal with FEH, and we've had multiple committees investigating, you know, as Jason and Scott have recapped it. You know, all of us have been involved in those committees, and we've talked to the community. And as Robin says, you know, no one else is willing to come forward but Charlie Thompson. And thank God Charlie Thompson is willing to come forward, because he wants to maintain the integrity of the building, the beauty of that architecture, as well as I said earlier, you know, he's willing to work with anybody that were to come forward and say, hey, now that you have this building, I want to do this with you. He has said he's willing to work with them and look at it. His mind is open to it, and that gives me some comfort too as well. So if I see school were to say, hey, we really want, you know, part of that building, perhaps it could be worked out. But at this point, this is all we have. And thank you, Dr. Cox and Jason and Robin. You guys have put in, I mean, it's been two years. We've been, well, a year and a half or so, we've been talking about this. So thank you.
I can't accept any thanks. There are very few times that the board and I disagree, and I actually disagree with the board on this one. I think that the city and the school board need an opportunity to sit face to face to talk about this. For whatever reason, it hasn't happened. Sometimes the wheels just move extremely slowly. They certainly have moved extremely slowly on this topic. But given the importance of the building and given the track record that Zach does have, I don't know that we're hurt by one additional month of exploring just a little bit more about what this option could be. So I just want to say that. And I'm not seeking applause. I feel it's my duty to make sure that we have thoroughly explored every opportunity, and this one seems to have some merit. And I get the frustration that it's been a 6-year process, a 7-year process, a 10-year process. I don't know what we're hurt by another month.
May I ask if we could hear Lorraine's motion on item 12 again? I don't know if I heard it right, but was it to table it to a later date?
We'll ask the secretary to confirm that, since she's the one who's typing the minutes.
Yeah, that is what I had. Table our discussion until a later date.
Okay. If we're going to table that to a later date, how can we proceed with this tonight on item 14?
Because the board has 3 options. They can go ahead with this if they choose to. They can go ahead and explore more about what Zach has to offer, or they can do both. Because it may be that Zach only focuses on the 1970s addition, that Charlie converts the 1932 portion to some upscale living. Zach says, here's what you could do with that addition, so it doesn't have to be torn down. There is no $280 that the district ends up paying, and that ends up as a public use, perhaps with the city council, perhaps with parks, perhaps something totally different. That's how the board could move forward with this if they choose to, because they've got all three options ahead of them.
A later date may never occur if a board member doesn't ask for the agenda item to be put back on for discussion. A later date would occur when a board member asks the president and superintendent to put it back on the agenda. So it's up to board members to decide when that later date is,
But
if it
it's-
occurs.
If it's turned over to Charlie for $1, then in my opinion, then we totally bypassed.
The later date may never occur, which is in the realm of possibility, yes.
Yeah, kind of like a parking lot.
I'll address the Zach thing and why, and share my opinion on that. He gave us the proposal. The cost of the proposal is around $30,000. So we would, and, I believe that the city had shown some interest in potentially covering some of that cost or sharing that cost, either way. The product from that money spent is essentially a business plan, an outline of what viable business options could go into that building. It does nothing beyond that. You take that, someone would then need to pick up that document and implement it. In my opinion, the school district doesn't share a role or have a role in that. We're not real estate developers, we're not real estate managers. We wouldn't have the responsibility, or should we have the responsibility of taking a document like that and lining up tenants, lease agreements with them, and so forth and that. The question was asked of Zach at that time, had he ever been, he's worked on schools, he's never been employed by a school, he's never been hired for a school to come up with such a product. I believe it to be someone else's, whether it's a private entity, Charlie could hire him and come up with that product and, have a pretty clear business plan to do whatever he had recommended based on his market research and studies. The city could hire him, the Economic Development Board, whoever could do that. I don't personally view that to be the role of the school board and the school district, is why I didn't support further looking at that option. So we've done that already with the Newman Munson study. They came up with a bunch of great stuff that had entities listed and spaces and how they could occupy it. Not one of those entities has shown interest in enacting that plan. We did it with the FEH study. The school district spent $15,000 for them to produce a big book of stuff that has sat and collected dust since the day it was completed. We've time and time again spent, in my opinion, wasted money, school district money, on those kinds of studies without an assurance to me that someone is going to accept responsibility for implementation of that plan that's not the school district. I can't support spending that money to do that again. We've done it twice already, and that's just my personal opinion of where I'm at with that.
However, I disagree with Jason and agree with Dr. Cox on one point, and that is that I believe that it's possible to move forward with Charlie. We've put in a lot of time and effort, and we've set this hearing date for some time. But I also think that Zach has a lot of merit. He's more than just an architect. He is a developer. He is a professional. And I thought that number was actually $45,000 to hire him, which could be split among all of the entities. And just because we have this option that is available to Charlie, he has 6 months in which to exercise that option. And we hope and pray that, and wish him success, but things happen in business, and perhaps something may not come together for him. I mean, it's a very difficult thing, and not for the faint of heart to do a development such as he's proposing or he is doing currently at McQuillan Place. And so I think that the investment in someone like Zach, I really like what Zach had to offer, and I'd like to hear more. That's all I'm saying, is I'd like to hear more from him. I think any investment in his project would be an insurance policy that we don't get this building back in our laps and that Charlie moves forward with success.
Just a couple of points. The dollar amount from Zach was not told to us at the board meeting we had when he was there for about an hour. I don't remember hearing the dollar amount at that time. I've heard the dollar amount from other sources, but I don't, he wasn't.
Basically $30,000.
Right. So, I mean, we did not hear that night when we heard his presentation. We were just hearing the sales pitch from him of what he's done in the past. So I wanted to make that point, that was not brought up that night. And I don't know if he brought it up or if it was discussed at the city council workshop or not, but I guess that's neither here nor to the point. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is the school district runs on Dillon's rule, Dillon's law with.
As of July 1, we'll operate on limited home rule 2.
Limited home rule 2. But at the moment, we have Dillon's rule that we're operating under. And when you look at our mission statement, to engage, inspire, and empower students and staff in order to maximize learning, I'm not sure we're spending extra money to facilitate someone else taking over that property as engaged in our mission. And I don't really see that if I look at our vision statement, that spending extra tax dollars to engage someone else to come up with rehashing or redeveloping all of these other plans and concepts we've seen and coming up with a business plan and model and then attempting to sell that to someone else, I'm not sure where that falls in line, considering all of the thousands of dollars we've already spent to get to that point. Based upon all of those other conversations the district and the community have had, and moving forward with this building and the public and practically the entire state knowing that that building was not going to be available for education anymore and it was going to be available for something else, only one person or group has come forward, and that's Mr. Thompson. And we have garnered statewide attention for years up here over this project, over this building. Mr. Thompson's the only one that's come forward. I can talk till I'm blue in the face and spend thousands of more dollars on surveys and architects and designs and utilities, and I'm not sure who else is coming forward. You'd have to come to the microphone again because we're on TV. We're getting old, so.
I'm just as old as you are.
I know.
Then it was a little misleading by having these agenda points on here. Because you pretty much decided it's going to go to Mr. Thompson. And I'm not doing this to be malice or anything like that. Because you're going to go and vote to let him there. That's why I came, was to offer some of these alternative ideas. But it's not going to happen because you've, like you said, today's the day. You're going to make up your mind, you're going to go ahead and do it. So I guess that's what I wanted to point out. You know, the way it was written up and the way I read it in the press was, if there's any last alternative ideas, show up tonight, because otherwise we're doing this.
We don't have any control over that.
Yeah.
The ideas that have been presented tonight pretty much are all a rehash of everything I've heard for 4 to 6 years.
Other than the school thing, and that's just,
the school
and I don't
thing's
know if
been
it's
brought
been brought,
up.
I don't come here every night, every meeting, I don't see the press every day, you know. It may have been brought up, I didn't know it before, so.
Yeah.
It has.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Are you ready?
Mr. President, I want to make a motion or ask for a date to be set for item number 12 to be brought up again with the school board and representatives from the city. Don't mean we have to spend any money, but we can listen to him. And so we need to set a date tonight.
That would be out of order at the present time, and you can talk with me after the meeting, and we will set a date if that's your desire.
why is it your responsibility to set the date? It's the board's responsibility to set the date.
Board agendas go through the president and the superintendent, so we
Okay, well, that's
would move forward with that.
Well, it's a comment, and I think it should be respected as such.
Yes, and I do, and we will.
I'll make a motion for resolution of a conveyance of real property, whereas pursuant to notice published as required by law, the Board of Directors of the Charles City Community School District on the 12th day of June, 2017, held a hearing on the proposal to convey an interest in the real property and the extent of objections received from residents or property owners as to said proposed transaction has been fully considered, and accordingly, the following action is now considered to be in the best interest of the district and residents thereof. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Directors of Charles City Community School District, Section 1, that an option to purchase the real estate described herein shall be conveyed by the district to North Grand Building LLC, an Iowa Limited Liability Company, its successors and/or assigns. Conveyance by the district shall be by deed without warranty. Section 2, the board president and secretary are authorized to sign the option agreement, lease, and all conveyance documents for the real property herein. Section 3, the board president, secretary, superintendent, and administrative officers of the district are authorized to take all actions necessary to complete the above described transaction, including execution of ancillary documents. In Section 4, the real property is described as 500 North Grand Avenue, Charles City, Iowa, and legally described in the documents.
I'll second that.
The board resolution for conveyance of real property has been, motion has been made, the resolution was read, and the motion was seconded. It's not my intention to reread it at this time. Is there any further conversation or discussion from the board? Any further?
Anything else?
You have anything else
You
on?
haven't shared anything yet tonight. Do you
I'm
want
not
to?
Selling
gonna
the
share.
property?
I'm just going to tell you now, I'm going to vote no, so.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just making sure you have an opportunity
fine.
if you
They
hadn't
don't do
taken
no
one
good,
yet.
So I'm not going to say anything. Thank you.
If there's no other comments from the board, or are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Winterick?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
No.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 4-1. Agenda item 15, teacher leadership and compensation.
We have a memorandum of understanding. It's a couple of changes for the 2017-18 school year, and it's in your exhibit packet.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the TLC MOU with the Charles City Community Education Association for 2017-18 and the corresponding TLC contract as listed.
And I'll second that.
The teacher leadership and compensation item has been moved and seconded as recommended. Any other discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber? Winterick?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 16, Labor Management Committee. Dr. Cox.
So in settling the contract with the Charles City Community School District Education Education Services Agency, Association, excuse me, in May, the board agreed, quote, to jointly establish a labor management committee. The purpose of this committee is to collaboratively discuss employment matters not referred to in the master contract, unquote. So board members will discuss how many members you would like to appoint, who those appointees might be, where, when, and how often the committee might meet. And I can share with you that the Support Staff Association has requested 7 members. So if they requested 7, you would reciprocate with 7. That would make a committee of 14. I find that to be unwieldy.
Oh, my gosh.
But you have to decide what you think is appropriate. I had offered maybe 5 and 5, which is still 10 members. But then again, you have to think through, would you like 1 or 2 board members? Would you like the superintendent? Would you like an administrator? Would you like a member of the community? Who would you like to have appointed to this labor management committee? And the two groups will have to mutually agree. So if we say 5 and they say 7, we have to find some
we'll end up with 6.
I think we can
because
talk from experience on committees. We can look at the SIA committee, how many people are on that?
21.
Yeah, and you can see the difficulty in getting schedules and getting people there.
Right.
Is just,
Well, and we're willing to do the work to do whatever it may be. We have shown that through our track record. But it's our style to have 2 people on a committee, because then you do not have a quorum. You don't have to call a board meeting every time we show up. And I think 2 of us and 2 or 3 of them, and you know, I think you're going to be meeting with the support staff monthly, or
That's a separate issue from this.
yeah.
And so,
but there's
So I think-
opportunity to discuss, you're not limiting their discussion in those meetings, are you? To nothing that could be talked about in these, or is it?
tonight I have to focus the discussion on, the board agreed to set a labor management committee.
Correct.
And when they agreed to that, then the next step is, all right, how many do you appoint? And we have to get some resolution between the 2 groups on that. And then how often they meet. And again, their purpose is just to collaboratively discuss things not in the master contract, which I will be doing on a monthly basis with all support staff. But the board has already said, yes, we will set one of these committees. So the point now for you tonight to discuss is how many and who and all of that. Or you could say, let's refer it to the negotiations committee to come back after you've kind of thought through how big of a committee you might recommend and who some of those appointees might be. Or maybe tonight is an opportunity to reach out if you do want to ask community members, or if it's just going to be, you know, administrators, board members, superintendent, or what does it look like?
to discuss employment matters not referred to in a master contract.
Correct.
I
So
am,
why would we include members of the public?
yeah.
Because you might want to have the public's input on things that are not in, the only thing that's required in the collective bargaining agreement now is base wages.
Okay.
Now, we have more things that are still in it than base wages, but as more of those items are not in the collective bargaining agreement, then you might want some public input in addition to board member input. Maybe it's people who can bring in, you know, the outside working world experience of here's how handbooks work and.
An HR person from a local business.
Exactly.
I understand.
That might be something you want, or you might say, no, we just want 2 board members and a couple administrators, I don't know. That's what the 5 of you get to decide.
Can
I'd
we-
like to see 2 board members, two people from the community and yourself. That's 5.
What
And then
about,
5
I
to
think
them,
7 is too many,
Yeah.
and that's
I do-
my
I
only
think 7 is too many. but
Yeah.
suggestion for you
Seven's
tonight.
too many.
Yeah.
7's too many.
Can we defer this to the
You can take whatever action tonight you'd like to take,
negotiations committee, which is Robin and I?
whatever you think would be most
I would
appropriate.
be interested to know what the thoughts on even having a teacher
You could do that
on
too.
this committee also.
That could be one of the public members. yeah.
As we're talking, you know, that across the, yes, whole spectrum of
Go
everyone.
right ahead and refer it to your committee, Lorraine, because I'm gonna eventually, hopefully, vote that you 2 run it anyway. So
I know it's coming
let's
our
keep
way
the meeting
anyhow.
moving forward.
So Robin and I will,
What I've heard is that 7 is probably not the number you're going to pick, so I'll at least share that back and let them know that we're looking more in the 5 range. And
Nothing more than 5, I would have to say, please.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
even if it means
Yeah.
that Lorraine and I don't, not 2 board members, maybe it is only 1 board member, so that we can keep it down. 10 people is
That's
still,
still a big group.
still a big group. And
It
I
is.
would no more than 5, probably more like 3 or 4.
yes.
Yeah. So,
The theory, safety in numbers does not apply here. We don't need that. We're all seated,
Looking for
we're
more
all on the same
efficiency.
team.
These can be very efficient meetings done.
Motion to refer the decision to the finance,
To
the
the negotiation.
negotiation compensation committee to bring back a proposal.
Second it.
it's been moved and seconded to have the Labor Management Committee recommendations be referred to the Which committee?
Compensation.
Compensation and Negotiations Committee. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Frisbee,
Yeah.
Maycumber. Yes. Wittering,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 17, the confidential secretaries and handbook. You have a recommendation here.
To approve a 1.68% package increase for the confidential secretaries as presented.
I move to approve a 1.68 package increase for confidential secretaries as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve agenda item 17 as presented. Any other discussion? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote, please.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 18, program coordinators and handbook.
Motion to approve the salary and hourly rate increases for the program and room coordinator positions as recommended.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the salary and hourly rate increases for program room coordinator positions as recommended. Any other discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 19, director contract and handbook.
I'll make a motion to approve the 1.19% package increase and handbook changes for directors as recommended.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a 1.19% package increase and handbook changes for directors. Any other discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 20, administrator contract and handbook.
I'll make a motion to approve a 1.19 package increase for building principals and the associate high school principals as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a 1.19% package increase for building principals and the associate high school principal. Any other discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Seeing as how agenda item 21 is scheduled to last approximately 30 minutes.
Yeah, I would move to table this.
Well, you can't, but you can recommend
I'm
that.
sorry, I would recommend. She's been 2.5 hours, so now I think I can make motions.
Long time since somebody ate.
I would recommend that one of you move to table
I'll
this.
make a motion to
Thank you, Jim.
table it till a later date.
I'll second that.
Till the next meeting.
It'll be fine.
It's been moved and seconded by the appropriate individuals to table agenda item 21 till the next meeting. Roll call vote.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 22, the first reading of policy 710.4, meal charges. You have that in your packet.
It's a required policy that we have to have on file by July 1st. So tonight's the first reading, we'll have the second June 26th.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of board policy 710.4 meal changes as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the first reading of policy 710.4, meal charges. Any other discussion from the board? Comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wittering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 23, the Cresco Building Service Change Order for the Transportation Center that is nearing completion.
Concrete looks really good out there.
Does.
It is beautiful.
Very nice.
Oh, my gosh.
Long time overdue and will be greatly appreciated by all.
I'll make a motion to approve the change orders 6, 7, and 8 totaling $13,547 from Cresco Building Services for the Transportation Center project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve change orders 6, 7, and 8 for the Transportation Center as presented. Any other discussion from the board? Any comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Wittering,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Frisbee.
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 24, the financial report. Does Terry have any comments about the financial report?
No, I will refer to my written report.
Anyone have any questions for Mrs. O'Brien? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to accept the May 2017 financial reports as presented.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the May 17 financial reports. Any discussion or questions from the board? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote, please.
Walker,
Yes.
Frisbee.
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Wittering,
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 25, the consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a
I'd
motion?
like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended. Roll call vote, please.
Frisbee.
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Wittering,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 26, correspondence and miscellaneous. We have the enrollment summary in our packet. Any comments or questions about that at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 27, important upcoming dates.
June 26th, July 17th are the next two board meetings.
And having no other business to come before the board, we will adjourn.